Exhausted, bitter, and drowning beneath a pile of unfolded laundry, I felt resentment rising inside me. He walked in late, again, without looking up from the clothes in my lap. The words slipped out before I could stop them. You're not my love anymore. You're just a man I raised a child with. The silence that followed was suffocating. Long enough for me to know I'd gone too far, but not long enough to swallow the words back. If you ever said something sharp out of anger, not because you meant it, but because you wanted someone else to feel your pain, you'll understand this. It still hurts to recall. We hadn't always been this detached. In the early days, he was my anchor, the one who steadied my storms. Where I doubted, he reassured. Where I crumbled, he stood tall. Our daughter came quickly, not unplanned, but earlier than we had braced ourselves for. Parenthood didn't destroy us. It simply buried us under an avalanche of endless tasks. We forgot the couple we once were, swallowed by being mom and dad. I stopped seeing him as my partner and started seeing him as a coworker, someone who changed diapers, ran errands, and carried out the trash. He, in turn, began moving carefully around me, always tired, always unsure, as if afraid that any misstep would trigger my disapproval. And me? I grew colder each day, bitterness seeping into my heart. One night, after tucking our daughter into bed, I folded laundry in heavy silence. He sat nearby, eyes fixed on his phone. We hadn't touched in weeks. We hadn't truly spoken in months. Then he broke the quiet. Do you still care about me? I froze, a tiny dress clutched in my hands, unsure how to respond. A sharp, humorless laugh escaped. Not because it was funny, but because his question felt long overdue. I admire you as a father, I said carefully, but sometimes it feels like I'm just managing a household with a stranger. His eyes blinked slowly. He didn't reply right away. Then, without a word, he rose and walked toward the hallway. The faint scrape of a suitcase being pulled from the closet cut through me like a blade. He wasn't going to argue. He wasn't going to plead. He was simply accepting my words as truth. I stood frozen in the doorway, legs heavy, throat tightening. Wait, I whispered. But he only closed the bag and said quietly, if that's how you see me, I won't stay where I'm not wanted as your partner. And with that, he walked past me. Calm, quiet, hollow. That night, I curled up on the sofa. Not because I had to, but because our bed smelled of him, and the ache was unbearable. The next morning, our daughter asked where her daddy was. I told her he was at her grandma's. It wasn't entirely a lie. He had gone there. But the truth was, he'd left because of my words. Days turned to weeks. His messages came only about our daughter. Short, polite, empty of warmth. The man who once left me long. Rambling voicemails just to say he loved me now texted like we were nothing more than business partners. And I deserved it. I tried justifying it to friends. I said we were already drifting apart, that he'd stopped trying. But deep down, I knew better. He had tried. I just stopped seeing it. He still made my coffee the way I liked, even when things were cold between us. He rubbed my shoulders when I complained of aches. He still called me darling, even when I flinched at the word. But I pushed him further and further away, until that night, when I landed the final blow. I thought he'd come back. Not immediately, but eventually, once we both cooled off. But he didn't. A month later, I got an email, a shared parenting calendar. No explanation, no invitation to talk, just logistics. The first time he dropped our daughter off, he didn't step inside. He kissed her forehead, handed me her bag, and left. I wanted to scream, come in, fight for us. But I had already convinced him there was nothing left worth fighting for. That night, I slid down onto the kitchen floor, back pressed against the fridge, and sobbed like I had lost someone forever, because I had. Love doesn't always vanish in an instant. Sometimes it erodes, grain by grain through silence, neglect, and one careless sentence too many. If you ever looked at someone you still loved and wondered how you pushed them so far away, you know this pain. Weeks later, we sat in a mediator's office, discussing custody, holidays, and drop-offs. He wasn't angry. He wasn't bitter. He looked peaceful. And I hated it, not because I wanted him hurt, but because I realized he was free. Free of the version of me who had cut him down for trying. free of the bitterness I had chosen over tenderness. And I was left behind with the label of single mother. And the memory of the night he decided to stop trying to be more than a co-parent. Now, half a year later, we speak more, mostly about our daughter. Sometimes he asks how I'm doing. I answer, I'm fine, though I'm not. The cruelest thing is this. The words I once used to wound him worked. And the worst part is, he believed them. If this stirs something in you, if you've ever lashed out with words to push someone away before they could hurt you, if you keep replaying that one line you wish you could take back, know this, you're not alone. Here's what I've come to understand. You don't always lose someone in a screaming match. Sometimes you lose them in the stillness that follows one sharp, unforgiving sentence. They don't walk away in rage. They walk away because they finally believe you never truly wanted them to stay.